before I finally got out. But once I got out, I took those handwritten books and I typed them all up, and I mentored those guys, and I began to tutor the guys who they said couldn't read or wouldn't read. And I found that if I gave them books that was similar to their life, they would put in more effort. And so that's what I focused on, and then I typed those books up, and I was like, I started to send them. I was sending stuff out. I still got like copies of my query letters, man. I was just sending stuff out in the dark. Like I sent, like, Jay-Z was like the president of like Def Jam at one point. I was like, oh, you should publish this book because you rap about this shit. I really live here. Right? I sent it to him, and I was just like,
did he respond?
No, he never got a response. But I did get a couple of responses from like some like independent publishers, and they was like, no, we're not interested right now, but thank you. And I just kept going at it, and then I was like, you know what? I'm responsible for my own dream, And so I took the money that my parents sent me and money I hustled on the yard. I still had hustles. They just weren't like illegal hustles. So I wasn't doing like drug smuggling, but I would sell, the merchandise on the yard for twice what it's worth. And I just took that money, man. I saved it up, and I published my first book from prison in 2008. And
how did you do that?
So I bought this book. I ordered this book called The Self-Help Guide to Self-Publishing. And I taught myself everything I needed to learn about publishing. Like I knew how to get a copyright, an ISBN number. I had a partner outside who believed in what I was doing. And I basically would just be like, here's the steps I need you to take to, execute this. And found a graphic artist and a printer. And published the first book. And then the prison sued me for the cost of my incarceration.
Wow.
Yeah. And they tallied it up to like $1 million. Yeah. Because basically what they did is they literally went and said, this is how much it costs for you to be in prison at every prison you've been in per day. And so higher security levels, it was about 150 something a day. Lower security levels, like 70 something a day. And they was like, by the time you get out of prison, it'll be about $1 million. And so we want 90% of anything you earn off this book. They thought I had got a book deal. They didn't realize I had like self-published. And I was like, the thing that struck me about that when I went through the actual hearing with the judge was I was like, man, I wrote this powerful letter to her, and I was just like, look, I'm coming home with a conviction. I got 3 felonies, right? I'm convicted of second-degree murder, felony firearm, and this assault on an officer. And I'm like, if I put that on a resume, nobody's going to hire me when I get out. And I'm like, fair, I get it. Like, if I'm in a hiring position, I only saw that, probably not hiring that person either. So I'm giving myself a chance. I'm trying to give myself a chance. Like, I don't want to go back to the streets. I want to be able to contribute to society, but I know society's not going to give me an opportunity. So I'm creating an opportunity for myself, And so I went through the court case, and this is how they ended up not getting any money, right? So I backdated a contract to myself saying that I would only accept 15% of the proceeds, 10% of the proceeds once the company recouped its production costs. So they went from suing me for 90% of $15 per book to only being able to sue me for 90% of $1.50 per book because I backdated this contract. So I used to work in a law library, so I was like, I know contractual law is binding, and the lawsuit was only binding as long as I was incarcerated. And so I just made sure that I didn't make any money, until I got out. But the letter that I wrote to the judge, like, it was important to say that, is that, listen, at that time, it's 15 years ago. I've been out 15 years now. At that time, nobody was like really talking about second chances if you have a violent crime.
Right.
If you had a non-violent crime, there's a chance you can get a job and you get out. And so I was realistic. I'm like, nobody's going to hire me. So I got to figure out how to make it happen myself. And so I went through that lawsuit, and it was tough. It was tough because I'm like, this is the first time I'm trying to do something legit. Like I've sold drugs, I've hustled on the yard. I'm trying to move into like doing something with my life. You know, I don't want to be thugging it out forever. I don't want to be one of those people that go in and out of a prison system. You know, I don't want to die here. Like I want to actually add value. Like I know some things that I think is helpful in the community. But if you take this away from me, then what do you expect me to do?
Right.
You know?
So they were under the impression that you had got some crazy big book deal.
Yeah.
And so they were just trying to stop it and try to fuck up your dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. God. I mean, I kind of almost can see it from their side if they hate you. You know,
Yeah.
like fuck
Yeah.
this dude.
Yeah.
What can we do to
Yeah.
derail this?
Yeah.
Or, you know, if you're a corrections officer, you're not making a lot of money.
At all.
No. And you're in there and then you think, is this motherfucker getting rich?
Right.
And then there's also jealousy of talent. That's a real thing.
Absolutely.
When you find out a person has talent,
Yeah.
and especially if you don't have any talent,
Yeah.
talent is a gift from God. It's like you either have it or you don't. You can develop some talent, but some people have talent. There's something that some people, like there was a video we played the other day of Biggie rapping on the street when he was 17.
Yeah.
You ever seen that video?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't teach that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't teach that kind of power.
At all.
At 17, that's a gift.
Yeah.
That's a gift. You know, some people just have a gift. And sometimes that gift comes from pain.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes that gift comes from a life of struggle and hardship. And it just, the emotional turmoil builds something inside of you that comes out in your art. And people hate people with gifts.
Yeah.
They really do. They really do. Especially if they hate you already.
Yeah, I wasn't their favorite, you know. But the crazy thing is like that's how I originally took it, and I think that was some of the impetus to them like filing the lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
But the policy itself is wild because like if your parent dies and you inherit their insurance money, that same law applies where they can take 90% of that to cover the cost of your incarceration.
That's fucked up.
But it's discriminate in terms of like how they apply it and when they apply it.
Right.
And that's where the hate came in, because how it got initiated was the person in the mailroom was like, oh, how dare this guy write a book?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to send this to the attorney general and they're going to like sue you. So it was crazy, man.
Yeah. What is it like the day you get out of solitary? Wait, so you did it 3 times.
Yeah.
2 1-year stretches and then 1 long
Yeah, 4, yeah. So on that last one, man, I didn't believe I was getting out. You know, after a while, you started to kind of, you know, it starts to play with your mind. You know, you see these guys that got, you know, they've been in for 20 years, you know. But I remember like going, because you go up to these hearings, you get, it feels like you're about to go, and then they come back in 30 days, and they're like, oh, they won't let you out, right? Because you got to go. So it goes like this. When you had an assault on the officer, you got to go to the warden. And then the warden goes to like a regional director, and the regional director goes to like the main director. And so each time I would make it like, oh, I got it to the warden, then the regional shuts it down. I got it to the regional, then the head shuts it down. So it's like you're getting your hopes up, and you don't know when it's going to end. You know, it's kind of like, you know, I remember when the pandemic hit, a lot of my friends, you know, I have a lot of friends in different walks of life now. A lot of my friends reached out to me and was like, you know, how do we help people navigate these tough times, right? The isolating feeling of being in a pandemic. And what I told them, I was like, the hardest thing that we're all going to grapple with is uncertainty of not knowing when it's going to end. And that's exactly what happened, right? It's like, all right, everybody's going to go on a lockdown, and then on April 30th, we're all free and clear. There's like, nope, we're going to stay until March. Nope, I think we should stay until June. Nope. You start to lose that orientation because you can't put your feet on solid ground. That's what it's like in solitary. You just don't know.
But way worse.
Yeah, the extreme of that, right?
Yeah.
And so when it finally happened, I remember telling the guys on the tier, I was like, if they ever let me out of here, I'm gonna stroll out like George Jefferson. and so the wild thing was like that last year in solitary. So they have these guys come over to the cell block. They like clean up. They pass out the food trays. So they usually come from the protection unit. The last year they stopped letting them guys come in because it was just creating too much conflict. Because they was like, they got beef, now you over here, and guys were trying to get to them, so it was crazy. So the guys who was coming over was from general population, and these was like guys I knew, you know. So like the last year I was there, you know, they would come through, man, they would smuggle me candy bars. I hadn't had a candy bar in like 3 years, you know. And I remember, you know, one of my guys come over, he smuggles, I hear the broom hitting the door. And I look up and it's like 2 flattened down like Snickers that he's like probably put in his shoes. I don't know where he put them at. I didn't even ask questions. I didn't want to ask questions. And I remember like running them over cold water so they can solidify. So when I tell you, it was like them Snickers was like the best like ever. Like, I mean, the details of how I can taste that, given I had been gone from it. So I told them guys, I was like, man, when they let me out, it's gonna be like George Jefferson strolling out of here, you know. And so that's literally how it was, man. They popped that door. I mean, I took my little bag of shit and my books and threw that thing, and I'm George Jefferson strolling. I'm like, I'm out. I'm like, y'all will never see me, because I had really, you know, I looked at it like this. I was like, you know, up to that point in my life, I had let myself down so many times. You know, I had been beat down by life, the traumas, the fucking, all the things. And it was the first time I felt like I was fighting for myself. Like I felt like I was fighting for myself. Like I'm gonna get out of here. All the things I said I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get out and I'm gonna do them. And it's gonna be the first time that I'm gonna stand on something that really aligns with that little boy that I always knew was there. And I'm gonna fight for this kid. And so I was like, I'm moving on up. But I'm moving on up into like a higher purpose in my life. And